So this is a 2-year-old filly I'm riding here, and she's got right about 90 days in this. And this is actually a sale video that I'll talk about at some other time. But I got to thinking about it. This really, what I have to say doesn't really have anything to do with her. It's just that she is a 2-year-old, and I'm going to talk about the timeline of 2-year-olds in training as show horses. So like I said, she's got about 90 rides here, and she can kind of do all the basic things. And so in a lot of training barns that Futurity barns for horses that are going to be Futurity horses, whether they're cow horse Futurity or reining Futurity or cutting Futurity or whatever, this stage right here, and maybe just a few more rides, maybe closer to like 120 rides. If everything was on time, she's not on track as far as when she was born or anything, so no Futurity rider would take her anyway. But somewhere around 90 or 120 rides, a lot of those Futurity trainers will then put these 2-year-olds on the back burner. If they were started in October or November, when most of those Futurity colts are, so they're actually 18, 20 months rather than true 24-month-old 2-year-olds. Somewhere around January, February, somewhere in there, those colts will get put on the back burner, and they'll get rode a couple of days a week, get some turnout time. If there's any possibility for that, they'll get turned into paddocks, and some of those trainers will just send those colts home during that time, because once those 2-year-olds are started and kind of going, they've got a good solid start. Those trainers then need to focus on their 3-year-olds that will be in the Futurity that coming year, and then their 4-year-olds that were Futurity horses last year and are now Derby horses. And they've got to start getting them legged up and fit to start going to spring and summer shows. So those 2-year-olds get kind of put on the back burner there. Through the spring, they'll kind of get up every once in a while, kind of ride them around a little more. And then through the summer showing, again, those older horses are going. The 2-year-olds just they're still on the back burner all the way through there. And then all the way through the fall Futurity season, those 2-year-olds are still just kind of back burnering it. So it's really not until after the Futurity season of their 2-year-old year, when they're coming 3-year-old, that's when they really start getting rode, when the 2-year-olds behind them are getting started. So then after the winter of their that they turn 3 in January, they turn 3. That's when they get to really, really turning the heat on, and that's when training really starts. And so they get trained all through the spring, and then as far as the summer, by the time the trainers are going to the summer shows, the better end of the 2-year-olds will get to go a little bit to the shows to get seasoned, and that's just where they learn how to ride in the trailer for 10 hours and breathe diesel smoke and stand in a stall, in a strange stall, and they'll get rode around in some of those big arenas. So during that winter and spring is when they really, really get the training started, and the trainer decides whether it's a big Futurity horse, small Futurity horse. During the summer, they mostly get seasoned, and they'll get rode some. And then, so now it's coming towards the end of summer, and about the end of the derbies, as I'm talking about this now, is when the derbies and the one of the first pre-Futurities are going on, one of the biggest derbies and one of the first pre-Futurities are going on. So towards the last month or so, and this is August, so towards the end of July, beginning of August, that's when those trainers are going to really be putting the mash on these colts, trying to get them caught up and like I said, putting the mash on them. I know one trainer in particular, he will have 8 or 10 people hired, young people that want to be trainers, and he's got a big name, so they want to come work for him. And he'll have one of those young people step on one of those 3-year-olds in the morning, warm it up, and he'll have 8 or 10 of them going all at once. And he comes out, gets on that 3-year-old, trains on it for 20 minutes real hard, hands it back to the kid, who then keeps riding it. and he goes on to the next horse, and he might do that 4 or 5 times on each horse every day. And so when I say the mash is getting put on, I'm talking about the mash is getting put on. And that's not irregular what he does. Other guys don't have the resources to do that, but they really start putting the mash on. And then of course then they go to the futurities. And so putting the mash on like that is where a lot of these injuries come from. These really, some small but some devastating injuries. And you know, I know of one real well-known horse in particular that popped a splint like 4 days before the futurity, and just out of grit, spit, and duct tape, that horse went on, won the futurity, probably because he was a stud horse. But the point of that is that, you know, 4 or 5 days before the futurity, you've potentially had 2 years to ride that son of a gun. There shouldn't be popping splints. You know, that shouldn't be a common thing. But that's where these big injuries come. You know, with cutting horses, a lot of times in the hocks, with cow horses and reining horses, it's in the suspensories, and it's from getting that big mash put on. And so the only reason I'm bringing it up to this crowd, most of you aren't high performance, high impact futurity riders, I don't think. But the reason I bring it up is because that's where this myth that starting colts as 2-year-olds injures them. And what happens is there's clinicians and local trainers, and by local trainers I mean trainers that don't show very much or don't show at all, and but it's clinicians and local trainers that either never showed or haven't showed very much or at any kind of a high level, or showed in the 60s and 70s when everything was different. And they see these these injuries in these young horses in these high performance, high impact sports, and the only thing they can translate is that, well, it's because they're starting them too young. And then that gets passed on to the public, and the public kind of goes, oh, well, I guess we gotta wait till they're 3 and 4 year olds. And the thing of it is that it's just simply not true. It's way better for those 2-year-olds. You know, somebody could say, well, Brett, if you don't think you're tough enough to start a 4-year-old, then that's fine. But the rest of us do. And trust me, I've started a lot of 4-year-olds. But study after study after study show that the impact, the actual impact of them hitting the ground, starting them as 2-year-olds, puts more density in their bone, more flexion in their tendons and their ligaments, and just the idea of getting fit and balanced at that younger age really decreases injury throughout their entire career as a horse. Whereas waiting until they're 3 or 4, it actually increases injury waiting a year. And part of that is because those horses are stronger and have a better opportunity to hurt themselves while they're getting started. So that's something I wanted to bring up, and like I said, I just used this video just to show where a lot of those horses in the futurity world get put on break, and then that's why they're behind when the big mash comes. A filly like this one, if a guy just kept riding her lightly, and just kept working away, well, by the time that it came to the mash season that everybody else is mashing on, whoever was training her then wouldn't have to be putting on a mash, and you'd be way less likely to injure her. So that's something to think about when you see these injuries in these horses. You know, a lot of times the trainer gets blamed. A lot of times the guy that started him gets blamed. Oh, he was too hard when he started, or then so often just the whole notion of starting 2-year-olds gets blamed without anybody looking at the facts. And so I just wanted to bring that up and pointed out that it's in the high performance show world, it's the nature of the beast for this to happen, and it's unfortunate, but it's definitely the nature of the beast. But hate the game, not the player, I guess.